Coming up next, Total Drama Island on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, more Total Drama Island on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, Total Drama World Tour on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Total Drama World Tour. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next. Coming up next, Teen Titans Go. Later, Johnny Test on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. Later, Johnny Test. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Sidekick. Coming up next, Scaredy Squirrel on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Scaredy Squirrel. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, a new Sidekick. Coming up next, a new Johnny Test on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, a new Johnny Test. Later, a new The Amazing World of Gumball. Coming up next, a new Grojband on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, a new Almost Naked Animal on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, a new Almost Naked Animal. Next. Coming up on Cartoon Network, more Johnny Test. Next. Later on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Johnny Test. Ninjago. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, more Johnny Test. Next. Coming up next, Johnny Test on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, more Johnny Test on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, Grojband on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, Almost Naked Animal on Cartoon Network. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Almost Naked Animals. Coming up on Cartoon Network. Next, Johnny Test. Later, a new Adventure Time